On a quiet night, Ji Young sits beside the king, speaking earnestly about her choice to continue into the third round of the cooking competition. She also pleads with him not to bow before the Ming dynasty. At first, she admits, her determination came from anger, the sense that Joseon was being belittled. But as she watched Gil Jiam, Master Eam, and Master Meng working tirelessly, as well as the Ming cooks fighting for their own honor, her resolve changed. What she truly wants now is victory. Ji Young's voice grows steady with optimism. No matter what obstacles come, she believes she will win. The king worries aloud about the missing pressure cooker, but Ji Young refuses to waver. Master Chun Sang will come, she insists. I believe. Moved, the king reminds her that no one can judge her. The effort she has poured in is already more than enough, even if something goes wrong. But when Ji Young accidentally spills hot water and scalds her hand, his composure cracks. Though she insists it is nothing, the king immediately orders the chief eunuch to tend to her. Regret gnaws at him as he holds her hand, blaming himself for placing her in danger, for forcing her to bear the weight of the nation's fate through this perilous contest. Yet Ji Young does not falter. To her, this struggle is worth everything. Even if defeat looms, they must keep fighting until the end. Meanwhile, Mak Ju lurks in the shadows with Prince Jezin. Together, they scheme to exploit this moment of crisis. To them, removing the head royal chef is not only a chance to sabotage Joseon's honor, but also a way to provoke the king and destabilize the palace. Their ambitions sharpen as they weave their plots into the very heart of the competition. The next decisive round introduces a new trial. Without the pressure cooker lid, their dish risks complete failure. But Ji Young stays composed. She never allows herself to be cornered and unveils a backup plan. Her unshakable confidence steadies the team, giving them hope even as disaster looms. The king, however, begins to see through the veil. He senses that this competition is no longer about culinary pride, but about treachery. An elaborate conspiracy targeting both Ji Young and himself. When he learns of the wicked plan to send Ji Young as a tribute woman, his fury erupts. Ming soldiers flaunt their strength, openly defiant, sowing chaos that threatens to spiral beyond control. The air grows thick with suspicion, ambition, and rebellion. At the center of it all stands Ji Young, brave, resourceful, and unyielding. But will her determination be enough to shield the king and the kingdom from ruin? Or will the shadows finally close in, tearing everything apart? The preview ends on the brink of storm, leaving us breathless for the battles yet to come. This act was reckless enough to ignite war between nations, yet Prince Joseon welcomed the turmoil. To him, it was the perfect chance to weaken Lee Hyun and advance his own ambition of seizing the throne. Though powerless to act openly, he found his opening not through Yukan, but through Makju. It was she who first whispered the idea into his ear. After Joseon's victory in the second round, Makju approached the prince with a venomous plan: remove Ji Young and drive Lee Hyun into uncontrollable rage. The prince carried her scheme to Yukan, suggesting that, if the king could be provoked into a public outburst, it would brand him unstable, evidence enough to challenge his right to rule. On the other hand, after Yukan's humiliation festered, twisting into fury, his lips curled as he spat his demand. Then send this woman as tribute instead. The words struck like a thunderclap. Ji Young's chest tightened, her vision swimming. Before the hall could react, Lee Hyun's forehead crashed into Yukan's face, blood splattering across the floor. Steel rang out as Ming attendants and Joseon guards drew their swords. Lee Hyun's roar shook the chamber. If you dare take her, you brought far too few men. It was no longer a contest, it was the spark of war. At that moment, the great doors opened. The Queen Dowager, known as the Violent Consort, entered with a presence that froze the hall. Her gaze cut Yukan to the bone as she hissed. Under the guise of duty, you wallow in petty indulgence. Do you think the emperor blind? She lifted a sealed letter. Yukan's face drained of color as he read the words. Only then did he grasp her true identity, Lady Han of Saws, whose sisters had once been Ming empresses. By lineage alone, she stood above even the current emperor. Cornered and disgraced, Yukan could only retreat. When the envoys departed, the Queen Dowager turned her wrath upon Lee Hyun. Foolish boy, she scolded. To gamble Joseon's fate for pride, have you learned nothing? He bowed his head, silent, drowning his shame later that night in wine with Song Yi. But elsewhere, darker hearts seethed. Prince Joseon and Makju burned with fury. Joseon had triumphed, and Ji Young remained untouchable. Makju's patience snapped. If Lee Hyun would not remove the girl, then she would. In the next arc, the palace is thrown into chaos when King Li Hun suddenly collapses from a baffling illness that leaves even the royal physicians at a loss. Fear seeps into the gilded halls, and gossip spreads faster than wildfire. At the center of it all stands Jai Young-soon, condemned by whispers and suspicion, accused of the ultimate betrayal, poisoning the very king she has sworn to protect. For the first time, the once unshakable Li Hun is seen fragile and bedridden, his power dimmed and his voice silenced. The throne room, once filled with reverence, now buzzes with fear and distrust as courtiers eye one another with veiled calculation. Compassion, long absent from palace life, is nowhere to be found for Jai Young. Yet behind closed doors, darker shadows stir. Concubine Kang Makju and Prince Yi Sun seize the moment, weaving a sinister web of deceit. False evidence is planted, damning testimonies are prepared, and Jai Young's carefully prepared medicinal dishes are declared tainted. Storming into the courtyard, she struck Ji Young across the face and denounced her as a traitor before the stunned courtiers. Dragging her toward the tribunal, she intended to end it there, but Li Hian arrived just in time. His rage erupted like fire. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, ready to defend Ji Young with his life. The tribunal courtyard fell into a suffocating silence, broken only by the harsh scrape of Mokju's grip as she dragged Ji Young forward. "Seize her," Mokju's voice rang out, laced with triumph. "This woman dares conspire against the throne. She will confess before us all." The guards moved, but before a hand could touch Ji Young, a thunderous voice cut through the air. "Enough!" Li Hian descended from the dais, each step echoing with authority. The atmosphere shifted instantly, guards froze mid-motion, courtiers dropped to their knees, and the weight of his fury pressed upon the hall. Mokju's eyes flickered wide, but she quickly masked her surprise with indignation. "Your Majesty, surely you do not mean to defend a traitor." Li Hian came to stand between Mokju and Ji Young, his hand brushing the hilt of his sword, his gaze sharp as steel. "No one condemns this woman without my word. Tell me, Mokju, who granted you the right to drag her here like a criminal?" For the first time, Mokju faltered beneath his glare. The king's wrath, once her weapon, was now turned upon her. "You," she breathed, her voice wavering between disbelief and anger. "You would defy me for her." The hall held its breath. Would Mokju bend, or would she dare rise against the king himself? At last, her grip loosened. Ji Young staggered free as Mokju bowed her head. "My loyalty belongs only to the throne," she said coldly. "If your Majesty commands her release, I will obey." Yet the fire in her lowered eyes betrayed her. Obedience cloaked her words, but fury burned beneath. For Ji Young, it was deliverance. For Li Hian, it was the spark of a new war. Not with Ming, but within his very court.